Well, hello there. It's Klein Alley Show from KROQ, but more importantly, we're joined by the great Kris Roe of the Ataris. Here
Hello,
we go.
everyone. Thanks for having me.
20th anniversary. Welcome. Thank you for spending your anniversary with us in so long, Astoria.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This is a crazy time we're in now, where nostalgia. I feel like if you can just keep living and keep playing music, you're going to have like these big moments now where all of this stuff from when like I was getting started even in radio, early 2000s, right? I think 2003 So Long Astoria is having this crazy resurgence right now.
It's true. I find that every 10 years or so, it's like that new group of kids, especially now with the internet, Spotify, everything, people rediscover all these bands from like when we were kids. Like for me, when I was young, you'd see like, I remember being like, 15 years old and seeing like Metallica wear like a Misfits shirt or a Ramones shirt or whatever and being like, hey, I love that band. And knowing that there's some kids that are younger than me that are discovering those bands. Or like so many people for me would come up to me like, I discovered like Jawbreaker through the Ataris. And to me, that's always an honor because those bands always meant a lot to me growing up. So yeah, it's nice to be that gateway drug for some young kid in the Midwest like I was. I mean, I grew up in the smallest town in Indiana, and it's not like you had like an Amoeba Records on your corner. You had to like really search out music to find it.
When people are finding, bands like you, as young people do now, are you interested in how they're discovering the new music too? Because people are also finding things on Spotify. They're finding things on, the radio. They're finding things through vinyl and cassettes and CDs now. I mean, cassettes are making a big comeback.
I think, honestly, the most important part is that they get there. For me, I think when, in the early 90s when like, punk rock or whatever it was for me hadn't broke into like a mainstream kind of faction, it was still like a thing where it belonged to this little group of like misfits and like weirdos. So when Green Day and all those bands broke big, we loved those bands. We would listen to all the Lookout Records bands and those the indie bands, and we were like, this is our thing. Now these people that would beat us up would listen to these bands. So it was kind of weird. But now it's like, I am happy if some sort of like alternative culture reaches some person that maybe all they knew was like mainstream music, because it's going to change their life. Because for me, the only thing that really helped me through those hard times and saved me in times when I needed it, that music was it. It's like a form of therapy,
We were saying that it's kind of cool how we missed, like, we're throwback to like when you used to have to buy weed. You'd have to like find a guy in a parking lot somewhere. You'd have to like coordinate it, and maybe he was there, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he'd rip you off and sell you oregano. And
There's
now
some
it's
beauty
just,
about that,
right?
though.
But now you just go, yeah. But it was kind of cool. It was like an adventure, like finding music. And now
I
you just
agree.
walk into a store with a Visa card, and you can leave with an ounce of weed. And like similarly to like music now, it's like, oh, just go online, type in, boom, boom, and there it is. Where it was like it used to be this kind of mission of discovery and who you got it from and where you got it. And
Yes.
I remember this like old like DGC Rarities album that would like you had to get it like from Japan, and there was like all this cool stuff. So it is interesting. But now that people are discovering, like, let's just talk for instance, Boys of Summer, if not the biggest, one of your biggest songs, not originally a song that you wrote, but people are discovering your version first, listening to your version first, and then being like, Don Henley is ripping you off. Do you feel like that's happening?
That's always weird. There are those people that are like, hey, I'm like, no, that was written by not only Don Henley, but Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers guitar player Mike Campbell wrote the music. So it's like, credit is due. We covered that song in tribute to my grandmother who had passed away in 2002, and she lived down in Florida, and the story is I would always go down and visit her with my parents when I was a little kid. When my parents split up one year, I was down there for the first time ever without my mom and dad, and I was missing them. My grandmother, being the cool woman she was, she's like, let me take you out, let you pick out one record, any record you want. I remember taping that song off the radio on my little jam box, and on like, probably the some sort of weekly countdown, and I loved the like kind of gray feeling of it. So I bought that Don Henley album, Building the Perfect Beast. I listened to it the entire time I was there. I thought about missing my family, about this rainy summer being stuck inside, not getting to go to any of the theme parks, because it was like what you did as a kid. But I was stuck in their little trailer listening to music, and it helped me through that time. So we covered that song and just put it on the record as kind of an afterthought. And then KROQ played it first. We were literally playing the Weenie Roast. The rest of the band had never played that live. It was just, me and the drummer recorded it, and those guys, I taught them that song backstage at the Weenie Roast. They're like, "Congratulations, guys! That's your new single." We're like, "What?" And we were expecting to do a single for the song "My Reply," and we're like, "Okay, well, I guess we better teach this." We went on stage, played it at the Weenie Roast the first time ever. So it's kind of a trip. Sometimes you'll record stuff and then you'll go back and teach it to the band later. But we always did things backwards. It's typical Ataris. But yeah, it was. I'm grateful that it turned a lot of people on to our music and that they were able to discover some of the songs we wrote, and we still play it to this day. I'm honored.
And we're going to hear you play it today.
Correct, yes.
You guys are going to be playing tonight at the Wiltern. You have shows tonight and tomorrow night.
Yes.
You haven't performed in a while for obviously various reasons, COVID being one of them, but you had a crazy COVID experience, right?
I did, yeah. In early 2020, we had a tour booked, was ready to go out and play some shows. Not only did the first show, the venue in Nashville, get struck by a tornado and it destroyed the venue, that show got canceled, and then COVID happened and the whole tour got canceled like every other band. And immediately, like 3 days later, I was around my daughter for the first time we rekindled in a very long time, and then got COVID. And I had it so bad, ended up in the hospital. I was sick for 5 weeks. Still have a blurry spot on my left eye. Had all this really crazy stuff happen, the worst sickness I ever went through. And it took me a long time to like ease back into playing shows because it was really traumatizing going through that. I know a lot of people who have lost a mother or father, family member. So I empathize with those people, and I'm still one of those people that just really take it very seriously. So it was like I went out and did some shows with Lit and Hoobastank and Alien Ant Farm, and that was like, okay, I can dip back into this. It was mostly big venues and outdoor shows, so I'm like, let's maybe plan a reunion thing around this 20th anniversary. And so I just called up the old guys and was like, hey, this will be like the longest time off the Ataris have ever had. By that point, it'll be 3 years. We never took that more. We would tour 9 months out of the year. We were road dogs. So I was like, I want the first thing back to be the most impactful, exciting things to the fans. And I knew that they would be like, what? And so, it was just a natural thing to do. And we'll make it 2 shows, just LA, Anaheim, very special, kind of where the Ataris came up. Even though I'm from Indiana, this was kind of the first place to give the Ataris love.
Even before the COVID and the tornado, 2 years before that, you got involved in a high-speed chase. Well, you were not in the high-speed chase, but
correct.
someone was being chased.
Are you in a movie of Final Destination?
I feel like
Kris?
God
what is
hates
going
you
on?
right now because I didn't realize that you got what, like T-boned by a car that was pretty much running from the cops, right?
Yeah, not too far from here. I was coming down. I was in LA and I was coming down just behind where like the arc light was, near where Amoeba was, and I was about to fly overseas. I was coming back from the vet with my French bulldog Gracie, who's passed away by now. But we were coming up Vine Street, and this guy was getting chased by the cops coming around from Sunset down Vine at like 90 miles an hour. And he, like we see high-speed chases every night on the TV, and he went straight into me. Luckily, I was driving a van, or I would have been dead. His car was destroyed. My van crashed into other cars that were parked. I was stuck in it. The van was smoking. I had to crawl out the window. My dog flew down under the rubble of the van. I thought that the dog died in the accident, but she lived. She got a limp, and it was bad. I got damaged pretty bad, and
did the police thank you for stopping the chase?
I know they didn't have to do the spike strips.
Yeah, that's true. I was the human spike strip.
Yeah, you were spike strips. You got yourself a new nickname now.
Yeah, the human spikes. I hope that doesn't stick, God forbid. But yeah, they were actually like, it was really funny. They were like, yeah, you should be grateful you were driving that big van or you'd be dead. I'm like, thanks for telling me the obvious thing that I already see looking at this wreckage. But it was really kind of the most tender moment as I was sitting in there on the side of Vine Street. Like I had to wait because they had guns drawn on this guy and he wouldn't get out. And I was sitting there, I couldn't go back in my vehicle and collect my things, but this homeless man, unhoused man, came up and he's like, here, and he tried to give me a blanket, and I was like, man, that's a really sweet moment. I didn't take the blanket because I was like, I don't know what to spin, I'm OCD, but I was also like, man, that's really sweet of him, and like, we're just sitting there, and some person who has, probably, is not as well off was doing this nice gesture, and it really stuck with me. But yeah, it was a heavy time.
So it sounds like it's been an eventful 20 years since So Long Astoria dropped. Yeah,
it was. Got pneumonia the year before that.
Oh my
I feel like God has tried to kill me in the last.
How did you make it to this anniversary?
I need to write a book. I'll tell you.
You
let's
should.
get that done.
Well, and you've got, you've lived through that. You've lived through COVID. You lived through pneumonia. Now you're playing today. You've got shows tonight. What's next? Because we heard a rumor that you might be going on tour with Everclear. Is there any truth to this?
I cannot confirm or deny that, but who knows? Anything's possible. There's a lot of great bands we love, and I'd love to tour with that band, so we'll see what happens.
You are in Vegas for sure as part of the When We Were Young. You're going to be doing that, right?
We're playing When We Were Young Festival, and there's 2 nights now. The first one sold out, then the second one sold out probably like way faster than it was like 20 minutes each, or it was something ridiculous. And it's gonna be great to finally play with Green Day. It was like one of those bands all these years that like somehow never ended up playing with that band. And there's a lot of great bands. Michelle Branch, I thought that's really cool. I was like, everyone else was like, what is it? I'm like, no, man, that's like the coolest one on the bill, probably next to Green Day. I was super stoked.
Do you get nostalgic when you look at like that lineup? Obviously, the goal is right. Everyone's like, oh man, it's this all throwback stuff because for so many people, you were the soundtrack to their high school, right? And then now these are people that are seeing you potentially again with kids of their own, and they're there. It's got to be that kind of surreal moment because, and we were talking about this the other day. Like, is it more fun to go to, let's just say you saw a band in high school and now you're going to see them again, 20 years later, because it seems like that's happening now. For us, the fans, we were arguing over what's more fun. Is it more fun to be carefree in high school and being like, oh my God, I'm at a show and trying weed for the first time, whatever, or now where you're there, you've got adult responsibilities, but also you kind of appreciate it more. You guys up on stage, to us, you kind of always look the same because you're like they're playing the same songs, the same band. Well, but is it feel different now? Does it feel like the same when you get back together with these guys to do the So Long Astoria again?
Good question. I feel like for me, there is definitely a more refined kind of thing about my life now. Back then, I was young. You never figure life out. I've kind of like discovered that. When you're like, it was always a joke. Like when you're 20, you're always like, oh, I have stuff so much more figured out now. When you're 30, you say the same thing. Finally, at like 45, I'm like, nah, I'm never gonna figure this out. But I mean, I do feel like now everybody's grown up to the point where, there was never any bad blood, at least not for me. I don't hold grudges about anybody I've ever played with, and, it includes everyone. But I do feel like everybody grows up to a point now where, the music, it starts, at least for me, to become the main focus. And so, I hope that for everyone. I feel I can only speak for myself. But as far as like the nostalgia thing, I do feel like as a fan, I went and saw like Weezer play Pinkerton. I saw Jane's Addiction play Ritual, De La Habitual. I love going to that because as I understand, I think for our fans, that album not only encapsulates a time and a place of where they were, but it's like, it's like stepping back into some sort of like place in their lives. And so I am there to just like play those songs as best as I can and just hopefully, take them back to that place. Like for me, I tend to not be, you would not know in my lyrics, but I'm not the super nostalgic guy. I tend to live in this moment because this moment is what counts, and I make my life what I want it to be. I don't, throwback Thursday, flashback Friday. Just for me, that's not my thing. But I get that with other people because to me, my best days are ahead of me. I am very proud of what I've done, and I love going out and playing these old songs. It's what, allows me to pay my bills, and I'm proud of everything I wrote. Still, 95% of our set on normal shows is all old songs. But I do get it, and I'm grateful that we're able to go out and play this record and take people back to where they were when this record came out, hopefully. And hopefully it was a good place. Hopefully they don't remember like, oh my God, that person crushed me and broke my heart. But that's a lot of, there's definitely that's in those songs. So
there's probably some people that lost their virginity during Boys of Summer.
Strange true story. My friend Tuck, who was in this band, The Biters, and he told me, he's from Georgia, so I just wanted to tell this story in the area. He's like, man, I gotta talk like Tuck. He's like, you guys played the Masquerade, and I lost my virginity outside in an old Volvo in front of that show. I got kicked out. Me and my girlfriend were outside, and we had sex to end us forever outside. And I'm like, oh my God, Tuck, don't tell me this. I don't want this visual of my friend and getting it on outside the club. But yeah, that was the story he told me. I was just like, okay, cool.
Well, who knows?
You get some weird ones over the years, but yeah, that was up there.
Everyone has lost their virginity to the Atari songs. Well, we're gonna listen to some live music. We can't wait. But as always, we wrap up the interview with only 2 epic questions. We each have 1 question for you. These are both epic. Kris Roe, the Ataris, is joining us as we celebrate 20 years So Long Astoria. Allie, epic question number 1.
All right, Kris. When you were young, what was the best video game, Atari or otherwise?
Well, as a band with the Ataris, I loved Atari games, but so it's always a hard toss-up for me with Atari games and the first Nintendo system. But for Atari, it was Pitfall. For Nintendo, it was probably Legend of Zelda.
Oh, interesting.
Going
pick.
over Tyson Punch-Out. Interesting.
I love that game too.
Would not have
I could
seen
probably
that
still
coming.
memorize the code to fight
you gotta
Tyson.
Right to Tyson, right? You gotta skip the last joke, go right to the top. Epic question number 2. No shortage of tattoos. Are there any tattoos on you that you regret terribly at this exact moment?
Yeah, man. My Scrabble letters of me and my ex-wife. It's the only tattoo I would change because, I don't think there's anybody in my life that I have disdain for,
Right.
even her. But at the same time,
But that's kind of cool, though. You want
It's
Scrabble
one letter,
letters
yeah,
because
you
can just
fill it in.
Say
But
it means anything.
It needs to be a word now. It needs to be like, I don't know whatever has a D at the
Prenup.
end of it. What
Prenup.
would you make that into?
It needs to be
It
a
has to end with
high-scoring
D.
word
Yeah,
too, though,
yeah.
in the Scrabble world.
Has to end with the word D, and
Or
it's
the
got to be
letter
high
D.
scoring.
Yeah.
Divorced.
That would work,
That
but
would
I need a
work.
lot of room. But
Make it
yeah,
happen.
divorced.
All right, well, let's get to some music. Thanks so much for being here on KROQ. We always consider this like home for you. Hopefully, you feel the same way.
I do. Thank you.
And
I
can't
appreciate
wait to
it.
see you on the road. A variety of places to see you, starting as soon as tonight at the Wiltern, but then it continues on to OC tomorrow, and then Vegas, and then this potential supposed tour that we'll hopefully learn more about. And don't be a stranger. Join us anytime.
Thank you. Thanks, KROQ, for the support. Much love. Thank you both, and everybody.
And God, stop trying to kill this man. All right. Let
He's
him
a
live.
good guy.
Please, let me live.